Stellaris, one of my favorite Paradox games, just released some new DLC, Overlord, and me being the consumer that I am, I bought it immediately, and I figured I'd make a review on it. So, first off, there are some bugs and some features are not quite working right, but I'm pretty sure that'll be fixed in like a few days for some of the bugs, and then probably like in a month or two, I think all the bigger issues with how some of the DLC mechanics work will be fixed, just because somebody at Paradox has already tweeted out that they're aware of the issues, so I imagine they're getting worked on. So some of the bugs, like the Scalora vassal type, giving you literally like godlike amount of alloy to dismantle ships, but it costs like another godlike amount to upgrade the ships. So that's kind of broken. That's that's not how it's supposed to function. But again, I imagine the bigger bugs like that will be patched soon. The DLC adds a pretty decent amount of content. It's not their biggest DLC, but there's still a lot of content added. The biggest addition and kind of the hype around it is the new vassal types and dynamic. Definitely add some more realism to the game. Before the update, vassals just existed until you wanted to integrate them into your empire, or maybe because you were like doing some RP and like your empire uses vassals and stuff like that. There wasn't really too much of a point when you were playing. But now you can decide how much freedom your vassals have, and there's actually some depth to it. Not too much, but pretty decent amount. It's kind of similar to how the Crusader Kings 3 vassal contracts work. It's just a bit more generalized. You can decide if they're allowed to expand or not, or maybe they're allowed to expand only with your permission. The harsher the terms you impose on them, the more their monthly disloyalty grows, though, so it's a bit of a balancing act on how harsh you want to be with them. But definitely makes the vassals more dynamic. And now, if you get vassalized, it's not an instant game over waiting for the, enemy empire that owns you to just integrate you. Now you actually have a chance to break free or even, help them out. I just think it helps a lot with the RP aspect. You can actually play as a feudalistic kingdom and have vassals now. And they can be specialized even more than regular vassals. There's the Bulwark vassal type, which focuses on defense and military at the expense of science and wealth. The Prospectorium, which focuses on resource collection at the expense of tech and military. And as I mentioned, the Scalorium, which focuses completely on tech. There's also a new set of buildings called holdings. They're buildings that you build on your subjects' planets. They can make your vassal fear you or love you more. It's up to you. Again, some more sweet RP. All depends on how you want to play your empire. Also, with the vassals, if they're too unloyal, they can swear secret fealty to other empires, and when that happens, an allegiance war is triggered, where the vassals rebels and the empire they swore fealty to joins the war, and if they win, they take your vassals, so you have to make sure your vassals stay loyal. They also get jealous depending on what ascendancy perks and other traits you have, stuff like that. If you have more than one vassal, they get upset, They don't want you having divided attention, and then that also shows that, you have more vassals to take care of. They also added 3 new Enclave types. There's the Shroud Walkers, who are basically just fortune tellers. You pay them to determine your fate, but it can be a blessing or a curse. This new Enclave type, I'm not a huge fan of, but again, helps with some RP. The Salvager Enclave is exactly what it sounds like. They will buy ships off of you. You can buy secondhand ships off of them. And it's actually pretty useful. And I'm honestly kind of surprised they just added an Enclave like this. Because in a universe like Stellaris, it seems like salvaging would be like a huge business with the amount of war going on. But, they finally added it. And then the third and final Enclave they added is the best new Enclave. It's a Mercenary Enclave you actually set up. Once you have a fleet bigger than 50 ships, you can make it a Mercenary Enclave. You're going to lose control of the fleet, but it'll be hired out to other empires, and they pay you dividends for that. So you get paid to have mercenaries. And other empires snap these things up, and there are no shortage of conflicts. So, you're always going to be making some extra energy credits and minerals. I've been wanting something like this since the Megacorp DLC came out. You can finally play as like a Blackwater, corporation in space, renting out fleets and profiting while everyone else suffers. And, they pay you a decent amount of money, as I mentioned. So it's not useless, it helps with more than just RP, but it also has great RP aspects. They added some new mega structures. They are a lot easier to access early game, which is the point of them, and they all kind of help with traveling around your empire. I think the most useful one is the hyper relay. It allows you to add fast travel points across your empire, eliminating some of the slog of having to like reroute your ships early game. Like, say you're having a war on two sides, and then you see some ships coming from the other side. It takes like 2 years to get your ships from one side to the other. Now you just add fast travel points. Definitely eliminates a lot of the tediousness early game with movement. The new origins are alright. Again, all they really do is add RP. I don't think, not really too helpful. The most unique one is the Imperial Fiefdom, where you start as a vassal of an advanced empire. And then, again, you can play loyally to them or try to break free. It's a pretty interesting start. They also updated the situation log now. When you run out of a resource, there's tiers to it. So you don't immediately just start on a death spiral. There's 4 tiers, and then each tier that it increases, you have, more and more boons and more nerfs. So, definitely gets rid of some of the death spiral, but, you can still death spiral. The new Revolt System, absolute trash. It's garbage, and it's probably my biggest issue with the new update. It is so easy for planets to revolt now, especially if you take over a planet that was already fighting stability issues. It's almost impossible to hold on to them. The stability penalty on revolts mean that a planet is probably going to break free in a year, and there's not much you can do. And if the revolt timer ends, they annex the planet and adjacent systems. And you have a 10-year truce on top of that with them, which is super retarded. Because the amount of troops you have and the defensive capabilities of the star holding that are on and around the planet should play a part. You could have 100 troop units on the planet, and once the revolt timer ends, they just get the planet. Even if it was some primitives you just took over, they could be using spears against you, and they just win. And then why would there be a 10-year truce after 2? They're revolting. I'm playing an ultra-nationalistic authoritarian society. And yeah, I'm just going to let them chill for a little bit, You should at least just be able to attack and reconquer the planet after the revolt if, Stellaris just wants to give it to them. But I think they're going to work on this problem, and hopefully it gets toned down, because it's definitely one of the more unplayable parts of the DLC. Another issue is the vassal diplomacy. A lot of the times they'll say no to you, which is ridiculous, when you're negotiating with contracts and vassals and everything, because that's not what a vassal does. A vassal is an extension of your empire. There should be no negotiating with them, and if they disagree, it should give us a caucus belly against them to put them in their place. I think this DLC will soon become an important pillar of gameplay in Stellaris. I think it already kind of is, especially with the new movement options and the new dynamic vassal systems and enclaves. But once they get all the bugs out and they kind of nerf and buff certain things, will it reach the point of becoming an important pillar of gameplay. So those are all my thoughts on the game. I'm pretty interested in what you guys thought. No, it's been a bit divisive just looking at the Steam reviews. But, overall, I'd give it, it's a solid 7, 8.5 when it's working great. And I think it definitely adds a lot. $20, I don't know. It's a bit, I don't want to say steep. I think 15 would have been more fair, but I'm really just, pontificating over a $5 difference. So, I don't know. I think it's definitely worth it to pick it up if you got the extra money and you like Stellaris. Or maybe it's more worth it to you to wait till all the bugs are fixed and then pick it up on sale. Definitely a valid idea. That's all I have. This is Conduit out.